Hello and welcome to Steve's Backyard Bonsai. I have a few things I need to get to today, and I thought I'd show them to you as I was doing them. The first one is some wisteria seeds that happily have germinated, and I want to put them in the same kind of pots. I had two more of those pots, maybe I'll put two in each. That's all that germinated out of about 20 seeds. I'll show you that. And get them in pots, see if they'll grow. I'll put them on the bench with the other wisterias and see if I can't get something nice going with wisterias. These are different than the ones that I have growing. I found seeds under an arbor at a nursery, place where you could sit when you get too tired of shopping. That's covered with wisteria vines that were just coming into leaf when I was there. So these were last year's seeds on the ground. And I got some germinated. The rest of what is going on today will be a surprise to both you and me because there's just so much to choose from. Some pruning, some deciding what I have. I've got a ginkgo that I pruned last year because I had given up on trying to do ginkgo bonsai because they were just too intimidating. But I cut one back and I've got a lot of growth on it. I want to see what that's going to do. I've got my nightshade vine, which one of my subscribers identified as bittersweet. It's gotten quite tall, and I want to cut it back and see if I can't get some ramification going on that. I've got a jade here. I've got a mystery tree. I've got my cherry trio, which really needs to be pruned. I probably waited 2 weeks too long for this, at least. An elm. And I mentioned my ginkgo. That's what's sitting right here right now. And if I didn't mention my schefflera, I want to cut off all of the old leaves and give all these beautiful new leaves a chance to fill the canopy up. All right, let's get started. This should be a fun day. So I picked up all these wisteria seeds. They're not like the little flat kind. These were more elongated and round. And I picked up a lot of seeds. It must be here somewhere. Anyway, 1, 2, 3, 4 germinated and got nice roots starting. If I can get them out of this paper, what I did was I had floated them all, and out of the 20 or so seeds, one floated, which I didn't take as a good sign. And then, since I never know what to do in those instances, I went with my gut and I put them all in wet paper towel. I wrapped the wet paper towel in aluminum foil. I put the whole thing in a plastic bag and brought it out in my greenhouse and let it bake, because that's what it did. And 4 of them germinated. One has a huge root. They all have nice roots starting. 2, 3, 4. Better keep these very moist. One kind of broke through the, I always find that amazing when it'll get through the paper towel and dry out on the other side of the paper towel. How does it get through? Is it going in the molecular sizes to get there? That always amazes me. So the end of this taproot died off, but there's plenty of growth. So I'm going to bury it deep in this pot. And I'm going to use bonsai soil because why not? And I'm going to have the head just stick out a little bit. The head, I mean the seed. We've got the seed sticking out just a little tiny bit. Looks like a piece of bonsai soil on this side. Now we're going to take another one that doesn't have to be buried quite as deep. So I'll take some of the soil from that and scoot it over. 2 seeds planted. Gotta get this watered. That stuff's gonna wick away any moisture instantly. All right, just a little bit, just to keep it moist. Okay, 2 more. I'd never seen wisteria seeds like this, and the plant itself was different. The leaves were smaller. It was hard to tell because it wasn't fully in leaf when I saw it, but the leaves seemed to be smaller than the ones up here where I live that just grow wild. Last one, and I'll put these out on the bench. I'll stop the video and we'll pick up on something else. Like I said, it's going to be a surprise to everyone, especially me. Get this one watered up. I'll put it on the bench and finish watering it out there because why let the water drip in here? All right, I'll be right back. Okay, next up is my Schefflera. It has some beautiful new leaves coming from all of the places that I had pruned it, which I am so happy about. But I think it's time to cut all of the new leaves off, which will encourage more new leaves. I fertilized it in these little tea bags. I'm going to transition that effort to those little cups very soon. And let's get started. Here's a nice new leaf. Right next to it is an old one. Off it comes. There's really no need to narrate this. I'd like you to listen to all the wonderful lawnmowers in my neighborhood. That's coming to you courtesy of my doing videos on a Tuesday afternoon. Or is it still morning? No, it's just afternoon. This one I'm leery about. I'm just going to take this leaf off. And there's one of those, actually two of those deformed leaves. So I'm going to take both of those off. And from both of those points, or at least one of them, there's already a new leaf coming. Yep, both of them. Okay, so I'm going to leave this. Am I going to leave that? Why should I leave that? For those of you who like my thought process, you just witnessed it. All right, this is a new leaf, but an old new leaf, but I'm going to leave it. I don't think it would have extended quite that far had I cut the old leaves earlier. So that's something I'm going to try and remember. This is going to have a good chance now of filling in. It's so true what I've heard Nigel Saunders say about winter leaves versus summer leaves versus full sunlight leaves. What a difference. Okay, so if you remember, I've been waffling about this cutting. This cutting was from a different tree altogether. These are dwarf Schefflera, but I'm not sure that this one is. They look an awful lot alike. I wonder if they just assimilate over time. I'm going to cut this old guy off too. And now I can finally fit it back in its little moisture dome. And maybe I can get some aerial roots starting. There's only one older aerial root on this tree. You're looking at it right there. I would love for all of these extended branches. You know, what can I expect from this? I think it's got a good start. It was somebody else's clump. I cut it down to nothing. I did a video of that. Hopefully you've seen it. I do not have my videos indexed yet and playlists created, but I do intend to do that at some point. Having just said that, I guess I feel I have to do it now. So that's one of my motivating techniques. I'm going to put this back on the bench and come back with the next surprise. All right, welcome back. I picked this up growing in my daughter's yard. I was with my son-in-law and I asked him if I could have this little stick sticking out of the ground. He looked at me like I was crazy. Of course you can have it. Like, what am I going to do with it? Anyway, it was identified in an earlier video by one of my viewers as a type of nightshade vine called bittersweet. So it's very woody. It looks like it would take well to bonsai techniques. And if I can if I can go by the work of Nigel Saunders, it looks like it does. It may die off in sections, you know, with no warning, but hey, let's give it a try. It looks like it'll respond. So I want it short. I have leaf scars down here. I don't trust them because there was a section without leaves here that did die off. So I'm going to take it to here for the short one, and hopefully I get some branching. I got 3 directions it could go. One of those directions might be into the center, so we'll see what starts to grow, and I will stunt the growth of anything I don't like. Also notice the leaf variation from the immature leaves to the regular leaves. They get significantly bigger and become 3-lobed, which is really interesting. This looks more like nightshade. And I don't need this top at all. I'm going to cut it to here, leaving some for dieback. So this is my little tree. I'm going to top it off with some bonsai soil, some other bonsai soil, making some room for it. Because I got some exposed roots here, I don't want them dying off. All right, so that's my nightshade vine. Nigel, I have one too. Here it is, topped off with bonsai soil. You may recall a video that I did and I called it My Problem Children. This was an elm tree that came up and had a big knob on it because of a lot of branches. And now, and I pruned it like a beaver would have pruned it, pointy at the top, thinking that might be a good method. And if you can see, I'm going to rotate this around. It may be a little difficult to see, but it's healing in a very strange way. Water was able to penetrate between the wood and the bark, and it is splitting down in a very ugly manner. So this is not a good method, or I would not recommend this method. Perhaps I didn't seal it as well as I should have. I used wood glue, which seems to have adhered nicely to the wood, but didn't do anything to hold the wood to or to allow moisture to penetrate and split the bark away. So what I'm going to do today is select 2 branches, or maybe 1, and then chop everything else away and chop this down and make it a real, make it a real pre-bonsai. I can still move this, but I want to point out that a little bit of movement, which happened on this very tall branch just because of the wind blowing, has basically severed it from the trunk. I don't know if you can see that. This will just pull away. It's probably already started to heal underneath that. I have a bunch of branches that have some subdivisions low down, which I like. This one here, hope you can see that. Let's see. This one and this one. So I'm going to probably choose them both. They come out not quite at the same point, but they are both good possible leaders because they subdivide low down. And then I'll carve some of this away. All right, let me get started on that. All right, so this branch is the first one to go because it wants to go on its own. It is gone, and it is almost healed over underneath that, so I'm not sure when this broke away, but it was long enough ago that it started to heal underneath that. Next, pull out some weeds. This is just in garden soil. It's been in this pot for a long time. I cut the pot down when I did the work last time because it was just in the way. I did dig down a little bit. The Nabari is kind of cool on this tree, so I want to see what I can make out of it. All right, so I spoke of 2 branches that I want to evaluate, or 2 potential leaders that I want to evaluate, or possibly both. This one isn't it. This one, this double one where 2 coming out of one spot, that isn't it either. So that leaves me let's see. So if I were to choose this as my leader, it's a little lower down. I would then make my chop along here and do it very cleanly. Trying to see how that would look. You might possibly have to pull this down a little bit, but as I say, I don't want to put too much pressure on it because they do break away quite easily. Or I can choose this one as the leader, which would give me a little bit more movement, I think. Goes a little further away from the trunk, divides here, and divides way down here. This one also divides into 3. This one, actually 4. And my experience with elms so far is, while it's easy to change direction because of the leaf placement, it's very rare to get branching. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 nicely placed branches right there. I've got 3 nicely placed branches here. You know what? I'm going to keep them both. Let them develop. I'm going to just trim the growing tip off of this short one. Just to stunt it a bit. I think I'm going to go way down with this, just leaving enough for dieback. There are leaf scars in good direction. And I'm going to go here. There's a leaf scar there. Hoping there's a bud. This branch, I've got some very, very long internodes to start. Should I do it? Nah, I'm going to keep them both. You know, I don't want to kill this tree. I might love it to death, but I don't want to kill it. I think it has potential. Not as it is, but as it possibly could be. The problem there is, if I keep both of these, how do I how do I prune it back? Come on, Steve, make up your mind. I think I'm going to saw cut this. In so doing, I'm going to lose this, but I'm going to gain 1, 2, 3, 4 branches, one of which is a leader. Yeah, why not? Here we go. Like I said, if you're liking my thought process, you're witnessing it. All right, so I'm going to saw that. I don't have a tiny saw. I might have to go up from the bottom to make this work because it's not going to fit in this side very easily. I'll do it rough and then I'll nibble it away. This is a silky, very good, very sharp saw, very, very narrow kerf, but not very pointy. So if I come up from this direction, and maintain an angle, I should miss that branch. I like the way Tony from Tony's Bonsai always speeds up his sawing. But in order to make that work, you got to stop talking. Okay, I counted the rings. This is a 9-year-old tree. You know what? I am going to leave it like this, and I'll Dremel it away at a later date. And I'm also going to clean this up and get a nice coating of black balsam on there. Okay, my sharpest knife at the moment is this X-Acto, so probably not what I should be using. But the cut right off the saw, I could have left, just the way it was. Okay, so we know this generates branches. That's good. I'm going to extend this over the wood this time and onto the bark. I'll put a little thicker coat around the outside. And I'm going to fill in that gap at the top. But I guess for gap filling, it's better than wood glue. And the color's not bad. All right, so that's this tree. It's got a long way to go for this to thicken up, so I am just going to let this grow. Whatever happens, and I'm just going to rub off any branching that happens below this. See what happens. I'm not expecting much from this, but there is a leaf bud there. I mean, a leaf scar there, so perhaps there's a bud. Looks like a bud, actually. All right.